In my conversations with the Dalai Lama, I suggest the need for a new set of games, TV shows, and films aimed at children from 5 to 15, which emphasize collaboration, compassion, and cooperation. I still don't get an idea as to whether this proposal I'm making, which I have to say, I don't think there's as yet research to justify it, although I think it's highly likely it would, that a simple act of kindness or generosity is intrinsically rewarding to the generous or kind person. Are you accepting that or not? Because I'm going to suggest that that is a building block for an educational program to inculcate global compassion on a huge level. Not the proximal compassion, but the distal compassion, where you act to prevent suffering. The reason for emphasizing that is, one, you affect many more people that way. Two, the entree route is through knowledge, wisdom, education. Three, if it's intrinsically fun to do it, you could develop everything from comic books to video games to movie films. I mean, what educates our youth today is at best neutral and probably very selfish, very materialistic, very violent. It's entertaining. But this, I'm suggesting, could be just as entertaining because it's got something it can build on internally. And the research suggests, now here I'm walking on thin ice. When I used that metaphor some years ago, you had to explain it to the Dalai Lama. Does he know that metaphor now? Walking on thin ice. When you walk across a lake that's frozen, the ice is very thick. You take no risk. But in the springtime, the ice gets thinner and thinner, and you're taking a lot of risk. So if you walk on thin ice, it means that you know what you're saying may not be true. You're taking a risk. So I'm taking a bit of a risk by saying that somewhere between the ages of 4 and 12 are the ages where you can have the maximum impact on value development. And there is the talent to develop, and they would make money, entertaining things that would implicitly forward a global compassion. And if I'm right, it feels good when you see someone do it. When you see Superman rescue somebody from the flames, that feels good. He's done a wonderful thing. It intrinsically feels good. And we can use that to build a different world. It's not being used, and all the people who make the television and the video games and the comic books, they only care about making money. You can make just as much money this way. But the consequence would be to build community and caring. So that's one of I have a few concrete proposals. That's one of them. And if I can't, I'm too old and too physically frail to lead this effort, but with your support, that is your intellectual support, I can talk to some of the people who I get interest in leading this kind of an effort, because we need it, and we need it worldwide, not just in the English language. Yes, we need it in every language. And it's not, we have a, this is another metaphor. I learned not to use metaphors with you. This one's rocket science. And you say that when you're saying, oh, it's not very hard to do. It's not like designing a rocket. We already know how to do this. We know how to do it in order to get people to buy more bubble gum. Okay? So we know all the technology. There are many people around with who made lots of money developing these things, who'd like to do some good, and they'd probably like to get some credit for it. Fine. Doesn't bother me if they get their credit for it, if the result is they make a kinder world. And with your endorsement, saying you think this is a good idea and worth trying, there's a real chance.
That's I fully support. Our goal, better, happier world. Happier, not necessarily based on money, power, technology. Sometimes money may bring more anxiety, more desire, more greed. So that creates more problems.
I explain more about this topic in my ebook, Moving Towards Global Compassion, available on my website, www.paulekman.com. All the previous webisodes can also be found on my website. The next webisode will appear 2 weeks from the date this one appeared.